public input. You have 5 minutes to speak to any item you'd like to. Give your name and address and speak to the chair. Questions part of the 5 minutes.
Greg Beck, 722 Waterbury Court. Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you're tired of seeing me at this point, but the reason I'm here today is I want to talk to you about what legislation that was apparently on the agenda last week and was removed today. As you know, last week talked about a resolution to sign a cooperative purchasing program with MPP.gov, and we questioned the legality of that, the procedure of that, and what we did is we did our own research into it. And the contract you cite here with MPP is contract PS 21045. Well, that is a company called Northwest Playground Incorporated that holds that contract for the MPP Cooperative Purchasing Program. That is a company based out of Washington State. On that company, so we did some research on that company's website. It says this NPP contract is only available in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska. That is why we called the Ohio Auditor's Office and spoke with the exact same person who spoke with a member of the city. And he told us he spoke with a member of the city and said that that was not represented to him when he was told about this matter. And that is why you probably got the call that said you can't use this, and which is probably why it's off the agenda. So the statement in this thing where it says, number one, obviously it's a contract that's unenforceable here in Ohio. And it also says in this law that he requested this information from the auditor, and he said he did not speak specifically to this. So I find that a little bit misleading in this ordinance. Also, another thing in this ordinance is the dollar amount. Mr. Ebert described that the dollar amount accounted for the deduction of parceling this out, which again I think is bid splitting, and that he removed the cost of install from the purchase price. What's not removed from this purchase price is the $68,000 overcharge, which was compromised by Mid-States Recreation misrepresenting the numbers. That $68,000 of theft is still in this ordinance, guys. So let's take a look back and let's take a look at this whole picture, because again, the reason the court sided with us was because Mid-States Recreation did not meet the criteria of a design build firm. There were 4 companies that were brought into this process. Of the 4 companies brought into this process, one of them is qualified as a design build firm because they do not have a manufacturer's representative affiliation. That particular contractor finished second in this process. I think you know who that is. In fact, Mr. Spetzel was at the meeting when we presented to the committee, was rather shocked and asked me, can you actually do this for $750,000, this much equipment? Yeah, when you're honest business and you're not ripping people off, yeah, you can get a lot more equipment and a lot higher quality equipment at that price. So let's take a look at this whole process from the beginning. This originally started as a neighborhood community organization trying to build this playground. Became a big deal for them, a lot of work for them to do. So what we said at the beginning, we volunteered our services to step forward and make sure that the citizens of Avon Lake would not get ripped off or not get conned out of anything because of the inexperience of the citizens in dealing with this. I'm not all that surprised that our biggest roadblock has been Councilwoman Fenderbosh on this matter. This bid was pulled in, we went out, there was no criteria set up, there was no forms set up as is required by law. This was all done off the books. And then it was done as a design build, which you had a firm that could do that. And this was all done and changed during recess because you already hired OHM to do a traditional bid process. And yet it was snuck through during a recess period. We bring that to the city's attention, we get accused of sour grapes, that we were complaining that we didn't win. No, we had a legitimate legal concern. 3 of the 4 companies were discriminated against. We have evidence through the trial that Ms. Fenderbosh had exclusive contact with Mid-States Recreation prior to this whole process. She picked her horse, and she's trying to bring it over the finish line. Now, what happens in this, this is an affiliation, this is a collusion with Mid-States Recreation because the company that this company out of Washington, is a peer company of Mid-States Recreation running the same product lines. This is what our industry does. This is how corrupt contractors work. It's called proxy networking, which is a form of money laundering. You send the money through a third party to bring it back to the original source. That's what this is. They're not licensed to do business here, but Mrs. Fenderbosh and the representatives from Mid-States who appeared to have, in violation of the injunction, continued to work through this process, a backdoor deal, to make sure Midstate still gets the contract. Yet she stood here last week when I caught her misrepresenting the facts and said, oh, they're not in this.
So your time's up.
I know.
We are taking a look at things, so it's not on the agenda this evening.
You guys are walking into some dangerous territory.
Anyone else like to speak this evening? Okay, with that, there is need for an executive session this evening. We will need a motion. Mr. Koss?
Thank you. I move that in compliance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1, council